So knife throwing. Well, what started off as a few videos to share with you and me turned out to be a lot of interest with a lot of people I know. So I'm having to sort of explain myself, and a number of my videos have been restricted or even blocked or deleted because of the music content. So I know I sent music videos where I was just throwing and screwing around just to show you what I've been doing. But now I'm having to explain to a broader audience what I'm basically doing with all these knives and axes and everything. So about 2 months ago, with no hockey, of course, at least no hockey to play or coach. I don't know, I just took an interest in throwing knives, and that sort of developed into axes. I knew that would come down the road, but I didn't think I'd find it this rewarding. I started off with one knife that's particularly hard to throw, and one of my first videos was with this one. It's called the Untitled, which is the Sturgeon. This one, it's a fish. I call it the fish, and it throws like a fish sometimes. So I have a little bit of fun with this at the beginning. And I had to figure out how to throw this. My first 50 throws, I didn't get one single stick. Some of these videos it looks easy. Some of the videos you see, me miss maybe 1 or 2 in a row. With the knives in particular, it's harder because you got to get the weight and the driving force right behind the knife, and it will accommodate some variance of degrees against the target. But once you get beyond that, it kind of like rolls away. And if you get too low, it just falls down underneath. And when you really think about it with the knife, anything like this, under rotated to about there, is good. Even though it sticks, if it's up like this, it's kind of a fail because it's not going to penetrate into the target. Ideally, if you're under rotated and you hit, there's still room for it to, if you imagine it like this with my hand, still rotate into the target, right? So more force. But ideally with throwing the knives, it's a lot more difficult to get it in through that point because any number of things can go wrong. If you imagine looking at the target, this is a perfect one right on, but you might have the handle on, but the point is off or the point is up. Really hard. I found it really hard to hit even playing cards till I got a little bit better at it. And of course, there's a couple methods to throw. Some of them are more difficult. I'll get to that in a minute. And I kind of favor that because of the challenge of it. And when you're throwing a technique that's really difficult, and you put it in a loony size red dot from 11 feet or 12 feet, a little over 3 meters or so, it's rewarding and satisfactory. Incidentally, this really isn't about a force thing or getting out frustrations or, actually for me it's more about the accuracy and the technique about it. I also, really enjoy the music, obviously, but the breathing helps too. I find it very relaxing, especially when I do it outside with the target outside, and you got the birds and the sunshine and the green grass. It's nice. You feel a breeze, and you just relax, and you do your breathing, and I get into a whole routine. It's like a whole process, and I focus right down to my steps, where my toes are facing, my stance, there's my chest and shoulder back, where is my arm going. Obviously any movements of the body and arm, you're gonna throw off your accuracy by a lot, or it might not even stick. So there's a lot to really take into account. If you do a harder technique, the action in the wrist is throws things off. So you really got to focus what you're doing with the wrist and how high your wrist is coming above your elbow or things of that nature. So you zone right in there, and you end up looking right at this little dot. It's so far away. Or when I put a playing card up there, I would look right at the say the eyes or the chest on the queen. The one-eyed jack, for example. You look at the one eye and you just try to focus in on that, and almost sounds silly, but almost like you're looking through that playing card. You're looking at it so deeply, and then you just zone in there, and then you try to focus and line up all those muscle memory executions, if you will, and try to get it right. And then it's about learning from the sticks on what you need to change and how to tweak that and change that accordingly. So it can be really, really enjoyable venture. Incidentally, Emily, you noticed on one of the first videos, or just a video recently, that I just toss in. There's not even a lot of force. It just sort of sticks in there. What I found very interesting at the beginning was when you would find the wood target, as hard as I could, if I wanted to stab the target with my hand, as hard as I could stab it, the indentation that it would leave behind was significantly smaller than anything that you threw at it when you got a stick. The penetration with a throw, it's surprising how much force is behind that throw. I can't match it with a stabbing motion on the end grain. There's no way. And I'm not talking about just really throwing my body into it like a baseball. I'm just talking just over my shoulder and forcing my wrist and finger forward. The penetration is 2 or 3 times harder, at least in my estimation, than me just trying to stab it. And I don't think I could hold the knife strong enough without my hand slipping and maybe catching an edge or something. So it's really surprising. Sometimes it just sounds like I'm just tossing in there like a dart, but there's a fair amount of force behind it. And even though you're tossing in like a dart, literally like a dart, the force is about as hard as me stabbing it. So there's a lot of surprising things. I also thought at the beginning, because you can see these boards are all chewed up, I'll take you in there a little bit closer. I'll talk a bit about the boards. What this is here is it's just a 6x6 post, and I've just cut it into 6-inch lengths and stacked them and put them in like a tic-tac-toe like pattern and put a barrier or like a border around it. And I've been throwing at it, and it started off looking as nice as some of these end grains here, but then of course you see the sticks. And interestingly enough, I don't know if you can see that there, but you see all these lines? That's from the axe. The axe just sort of leaves little lines. It doesn't really do as much damage, but you can see the kind of damage that these knives do, particularly my larger knives. It just chews up the backboard. And if you look at it, that one's pretty chewed up. I had to make the dots on the perimeter because I was just chewing up the middle way too much. But it allows me an opportunity to note this thing to the side, which is new. And what happened is a good friend of mine, Will, was kind enough to provide me with 4 of these cut cross pieces, cross sections of a big hardwood piece. So like it's really hard. Like, look, see me trying to stab it there? I don't know if you can see this or not, but see me stab it? I'll show you a picture, or you'll actually see it when I pull out the knife on a throw. Like it, you can hardly see that, but you'll see the knife go in. What's also interesting, and I found out about the cross grain, is that if you just give it a little spray of water, it allows and helps with the knife to stick, or the axe to stick. I guess it brings the grain out a little bit, and the knife grabs a little bit better. And also, when I put a close-up later on a throw, you'll see that when the wood is wet and the cross fibers are wet and something penetrates into it, like the knife or the axe, you'll see that it actually spreads water out, and then when you pull the knife out, the wound just sort of closes up. And when you see the close-up of these logs, you'll see lines around it, almost like I had an HB pencil. And what that is it's actually axe marks that are just, they healed up. So I never used water on the big square boards. I've just been using up garbage wood, but it would have been well improved if I would have sprayed that down with water each time I use it, kind of like I'm doing with the logs. But the logs, it's really nice, and the sound from the beginning, one of the nicest things I mentioned all the breathing and the techniques, but one of the nicest things is the sound. Oddly I find it very satisfying, and just the sound into a tree or into the wood in particular. It doesn't sound like just a thud, like a knock. It actually sounds like a thud, almost like it's being absorbed. Like it's just hopefully you hear it on the video coming up. But yeah, that was really great of my buddy Will looking after me, and he's one of the guys that actually comes and throws knives with me once in a while when we can. And that's kind of the setup. I've been going through a number of indoor and outdoor targets, and they get chewed up pretty quickly with the knives. I also haven't used the water to maintain it, so it just ends up chipping and shredding into a mulch. I got pails and pails full of mulch from this knife throwing foray. But here with the water, it almost looks like you never threw a knife at it, and you'll see that up close. So it'll last a lot longer. It's a nicer target to throw at. What I did was I just took a hockey tape roll, and I took a marker, and I just made a circle within the boundary of the hockey tape roll on each of the things as somewhat something to focus my target on. So getting into the throwing now, I know it's getting a little bit long-winded at explaining how I got into this, but getting into the throwing now, this one is kind of neat. There's a few techniques that I've been using, and I'll first demonstrate with this one how I started. But I started with what I thought was a real cool technique, and it's called the no spin. And the idea is that when you throw it, okay, you actually, the knife wants to have a forward rotation because of the arm going. And what you're trying to do is countermand that rotation by sliding your finger along the back as it's going forward. And then it continues to still drive forward after you stop it into the target. So when you really think about it, from your release, it's called a no spin, but from your release to into the target, it's a quarter rotation, actually. It's one of the hardest ones that I can do. With this one, it's really tough. You got to get it just right. But it's just like a fun challenge for me. A lot of times when I'm throwing the no spin with any knife, I'm not even necessarily just trying to hit that like little bullseye. Just trying to get in that general area and stick it. It's tough to stick it. Especially I found when I'm doing these videos, just trying to show a variety. I didn't want to make 100 videos. I wanted to sort of make a few videos showing a variety of different things I'm doing. But what happens is when I go from a knife to knife or to axe, the weight and the balances throw me off. You'll notice a lot of times in the video when I switch to a new knife, the first throw doesn't even stick. And then, once I get the feel for it, subsequent throws improve, hopefully. Yeah, it's not a perfect science yet, but I'm not necessarily trying to be in the bullseye with all these weapons. Just sort of being able to stick it is an accomplishment for me and myself. When I do get in the bullseye, you'll see a little bit of a jump or a celebration. It's specific. It's specifically rewarding when you're doing it, and maybe you get two in a row, two bullseyes in a row, or a double tap as you called it. So no spin. No spin's the real tough one. But if I ever have to go to basically my go-to throw for any knife, any kind of riding knife, it would be the military half spin. So instead of holding the handle like I do for the no spin, I would hold the blade, and I would hold it sideways like this, and I would throw my thumb forward into the throw. So when I throw, I'm throwing it forward, and it does a half rotation into the target, ideally. So again, if you really think about it, upon release, to release, it's upright, turning half, and then a quarter. So it's about 3/4 of a rotation, technically speaking, but they call it a military half spin. I find that that spin works with a lot of knives. I could go from this short knife to another similar knife that's longer, and then go to my big magnums, Boker Magnum knives. It's all pretty consistent. You do change your distance. It's always just still a half rotation or a 3/4 rotation. Half rotation always. What happens is when you change your distance, you move your thumb up or down accordingly to either slow the rotation or to increase the rotation. If you hold it down like this, it rotates faster. If you hold it up higher, it doesn't rotate as fast for that half rotation entering the target. So the adjustments are made by how you go up or down. For no spin, incidentally, the distances are judged sort of how you release it. Do you release the knife like this? Or if you're further back, you might have to release it like that. And you might even have to push it. I've been sort of playing with a technique where I don't just have my finger like this guiding along the back. I actually charge it or I load it like that. And then when I come over, I've been having a little bit of fun with it, but not consistent sticks. But when I come over like this, instead of gliding my finger down, I push it with my finger, and when it does go, it's just the penetration is that much more with just that finger flick. And while I'm explaining it dawns on me that when I was first watching these videos, because anything I try to learn, I put it on YouTube. I go to YouTube and I try to research it and figure it out. This particular endeavor, I did a lot of research on the different throwing techniques. And I remember the guy describing the no spin. He says, yeah, you just come over like this and you release it like this. And you're just going to glide your finger along the bottom. I'm thinking, yeah, right. There's no way this. And it actually, has come around full circle. I've played with a lot of different ways to do it. And yeah, surprisingly now, when I'm throwing it, I'm guiding my finger. And like I said, I even get to the point where there's a Scandinavian champion, a world champion, that was talking about the push. You can add a push to it, so I've been playing with that. But that even adds more power. But again, if you just push it just a little bit to this side or to that side, the knife sways or turns, and you might not even stick. But when you get it right, or when you get it right and hit the bullseye, it's really satisfying because of the level of difficulty. So that's what makes it interesting for me too. When I got to the axes, which I just got recently, I found that it was really easy, and I guess it was at least the rotation, or at least the distance to the target that I have in my garage here, which maxes out at about 11 feet. But I think for axe throwing, the minimum is 12 feet. But for my rotation with this axe that I just got, it was quite perfect. My first throw was a good stick close to a card, and my second I almost split the card. So, and I think my first 50 throws, it didn't not stick. I didn't have a drop once. They all just seemed to go in. And then when I started, playing with the techniques and everything, mind you, I was throwing it too a little bit more than I should. Now, when I'm throwing it, I'm just sort of like loading it and leaning forward and trying to minimize motion, not just throw it like a ball at a target. So my technique has changed, but it was surprising how easy it was to stick it. And then I went in the backyard and just the difference of 1.5 feet. I think my first 3 or 4 didn't stick at all. They just bounced off. So it was a surprising eye-opener for me, just how different it was, just changing things by 1.5 feet. But this really isn't made for that. And I think I would need a longer axe for throwing at 12 feet anyways, because that would change my rotation. And I could guide it a little bit with my hand. Interesting nuances. And then, I played, when I went on YouTube, they actually explained different ways to throw an axe. So I saw them throw it underhand, and I thought, well, that's pretty cool. And I tried that, and that worked the first few times. So I kept going with that as for some fun. But Yeah, I just got this axe, Mother's Day I picked it up, before we started all the Mother's Day stuff. I picked it up in the morning, after ordering it online. And so what's that, just a handful of days. And yeah, it's amazing, just a little bit of technique that you get on YouTube from some professionals, and it changes how you're doing things. I also kind of picked up a knack for throwing the things. Like, even I can pick up a screwdriver now. First one probably won't go in, but once I see it hit, I usually get the second or third, and just having a little fun with that too, with some of the tools. So for me, just a lot of sticking is the big thing, not necessarily the accuracy. I also picked up 2 mini hatchets from Canadian Tire, but I broke the wood off the smaller hatchet, and I took the handle off this one, because it had a grip that had knuckles into it, or grooves, so it was hard to hold it straight. It was round, so I took this off. The hard thing with throwing these mini hatchets is the rotation is so fast. I can't do one rotation. You almost need 2, and I couldn't make it stick. So I found an interesting way online that people were throwing hatchets no spin. So again, it's just like with the finger, and you throw it and you let it over rotate just a bit, so the axe can penetrate. If a perfect no spin with a knife, it would be where your finger's pointing would be into the target. You want it to over rotate a little bit, but yeah, just tossing the knife, and again, same thing with the penetration. It looks like I'm just tossing it like a dart, but when this penetrates, I can't do it as hard with my hand. It's amazing. But throwing it backwards, overspin, that was especially satisfying when I stuck that one. First time too. And I found it easy to even hit the playing cards. So that was kind of a neat surprise too. Just some things I wasn't expecting. Where I started learning more about the knife throwing, though, and throwing in general, is when I got the sets. The sets allowed me to learn a lot more, because rather than throw one item and then just go and get it, I could throw one and learn from the stick in front of me, and then throw another one and possibly learn more to make the most out of the third stick. So I learned a lot once I got my throwing technique. Recently, with these ones, I've learned of another technique called the Instinctive Technique, and it's basically how you throw a hammer. But people throw larger knives like this. It wouldn't work on some of my smaller knives, but it works on this Boker Magnum set. And you just basically hold it like a hammer, and it goes. See, first one doesn't go in, but it should usually go easy for me. Not even one there. I'm a little bit close though, which throws off my rotation. I changed the camera so it's right in front of me rather than on the ledge behind me, and I'm standing, I guess, too close. But this is a nice one, and it just comes out of your hand pretty quick. I had a video earlier where I threw that 3 times, and that's a full rotation. So as you're throwing the Instinctive now, we went from no spin, which I threw the Boker Magnum all 3 throws. I did it no spin, military half spin, and Instinctive in that one video, and was pretty good at. I was throwing at some red squares, and I did pretty good with that one. But we started off with the no spin, which is actually ends up being a quarter rotation, like I mentioned. Flip it over from the hand, throwing with the thumb. You get the military half spin, which is actually, like I mentioned, 3/4 of rotation. And then with the Instinctive, having it upright, you're throwing it down, 1 full rotation of the target. So you're doing 1 rotation and a quarter, technically, right? But those are the 3 spins. And so just having the variety and being able to do all 3 spins with this knife set in particular was kind of fun too. So I had a little bit of fun with that one afternoon. What I really like though is this has to be my favorite knife, and I think if I spend any time, most of the time in the garage, it's with this knife here, and it's on this side here. It's by Kisliar Knives, and this one is called the Leader. So the Leader, and it's fairly easy to throw at military half spin. It's slender. It's got a nice balance on it, sharp point, and it doesn't have any. See this one it's sort of off. Any way you hold the balance is different. You can only throw it like certain ways. But with this one, you know, the balance, whether you hold it like this or like that or like that, it's very nice. I don't even know if I have all the terminology, but I know this feels very nice in my hand. It's nice for throwing. Military half spin, I'm fairly accurate with it. I do, that would be my go-to if I had to throw out a card or something. But most of my time, if I'm just screwing around in the garage playing with my knives, throwing it, I'm throwing the no spin at it, and that's what I'm going to throw when I finally put it over there. I'll throw the no spin and maybe the military half spin with this knife. I won't throw all the knives. I'll maybe throw the axe so you can see what that's like. I hope I don't have a bounce back that hits the camera. Have to figure that out next time. But yeah, I'm going to do the no spin so you can see what that's like. Just the sound of this new target. I couldn't have any music for that. Just so you can hear what that sounds like and see the penetration. And it's really cool the way you pull it out and the wound just closes up. Just a little trick, another thing I learned on YouTube about keeping the target wet. So it keeps the end grains out. So here, if I can set this up properly, let's see what I can do here. Hopefully you can see that. I'm going to step back to my lines and throw first some no spin. I'll throw a couple no spin from 3 meters. Nice sound there. A little bit over rotated. I am throwing down though, but still a little bit over rotated. I'd like it to be down. Another interesting thing is if you look at here, it's not just about the knife throw hitting the target. For example, I didn't hit the target there, but to me this is a really good throw, and here's why. If you look at it, you'll see that the name is on top and that the blade is all along the bottom. That means, and you can see it's a little bit over rotated. Ideally you'd want it like that, level. But again, I am throwing from above. But the fact, if I can just pull this out, the fact that it didn't in the air rotate like this and be upside down, the fact, because ideally in motion, right? Ideally in motion, this knife should only have 2 motions, forward and dropping down. It shouldn't be turning or rotating this way to the side or even rotating like this, right? It should just have the forward motion and down. So the best throws, you'll see the knife sticking in like this with the blade down. Doesn't always happen, but when that happens, it's particularly satisfying too, because I'm not necessarily just want it to go in the bullseye. I want a good throw. Like I want to stick, and I want my technique to be better. Again, I think I've only been doing this about a month and a half or 2 months, so I'm still working on a lot of technique. And because of my variety, I don't hone down one thing. But if there was anyone, it'd be throwing this. Let me throw it a couple more times. Not even close, but a nice sound. A little bit of a rotation counterclockwise. And again, just tossing it in there. Not really putting much into it, just tossing it in there. Not whipping it. That one was a particularly weak throw, but sticks anyways. You can see how it just closes up. You can't even see the wound. Maybe you can. I'll get closer on the next penetration here. Not even close. That's a real bad throw. Love the sound still. It's extremely under-rotated there. Same thing with that one. So that's a nice throw with the blade down, not even close to the target, but again. Okay. I'm going to put it a little bit closer so you can see this wound. Hopefully you can see that when I take it out. And again, watch how deep this is when you take it out. You see how deep that is and the sound. Here's me trying to stab it, right? Not even nearly as deep, but you can see that one closes up. And even this one, it'll close up even more and more as we go. Okay, I'm going to do military half spin now with the leader. His leader. Tough one there. Glad it didn't hit the camera. I'm going to have to put my adjustment there. This one particularly, there's a lot of deep penetration with this particular throw. Oh, that's a nice shot. Look at that. I think I might stop there, but again, you're looking at it just slightly under-rotated, almost perfect as far as the height. You're going to have some rotation this way and that way with the military half spinner. I haven't been able to. And that's because when you hold the blade, one side is beveled and the other side isn't. So as you're pinching it, you can't help but it's going to turn this way. So as you're throwing it, it's going to rotate one way or another like this. But that's a particularly nice throw. Like I mentioned, my go-to throw is the military half spin if I'm trying to hit a target. Here's what an axe looks like. I'm going to toss in an axe. We'll see if I get it to stick. It doesn't stick as well in the hardwood as it does on my homemade box there, but we'll try it out anyways. Let's see what this one sounds like if I can stick it. Good solid stick there, not anywhere close to the target. I was going for this one actually because this one's too hard to hit with the handle, the bottom. So for the axe, I do the top two, but I'm going for this one right here. Again, I'll just be tossing in like a dart. Let's see if I can get the accuracy, but even the stick, hopefully you can see it. Not quite hard enough. Maybe a little bit under-rotated there. A couple more times. Okay, not close, but look at how that just heals up. And all it is just one little slice. I love how well preserved the boards stay like this. Not even close. We'll give it 2 more throws and then I'll call it my best effort for the day. Tough one. Closer, not quite there. I'll maybe just get closer so you can see it come in and out of the fiber. All right, last throw. Let's see what I can make of this. Make sure my body's square. I try not to take too long in these videos, but I'll put everything into this last throw here. Sometimes I think I overthink it, which sometimes happens. I'll have a stretch where I'll sink 5 in a row, then I start overthinking, then I can't sink one for 3 shots. But here, last one maybe. I can't end on that note. I got to end at least on a stick. Not bad. I am throwing with this target. With this target, I am throwing about, I don't know, a foot and a half further than I normally do. Normally I'm going straight across, but with this target, I can turn it towards the outside of the garage, which gives me a diagonal, so I can throw it a little bit further. If I'm throwing it at this target, it's going to be really easy. It just sticks in like nothing. The rotation's perfect for, I don't know, whether it's, what would that be? Maybe 9.5, 10 feet where I'm throwing at. The rotation's perfect for here. Just flies in. Like, look, perfect rotation. Incidentally, when you're hitting an axe, you can stick it like this, and there's such a broader range to stick it in, because it can stick in like this, it can stick like this, even down to that. Whereas, like I mentioned earlier with the knife only sticks if you get behind the point this way. Whereas there's a little bit of freedom with the axe. So once I figure out the rotation at the different distances, I have an easier time with axes, which I expect most people enjoy the same advantage. So I think that's about it for my knives. Maybe we'll just throw a screwdriver once for the fun of it. See what a screwdriver sounds like. Not too good there. Pretty cool sound. Shout out to Will again. Man, that's just a beautiful backboard. And the other stumps that I have, I can start playing with those and maybe make something else. I am going to make a new square board, just because I like the idea of putting a bunch of cards up and playing different games or tic-tac-toe. But I'm going to make that when the stores finally open up and I can get some good lumber. In the meantime, I'll just continue to mulch up my garbage lumber that I have lying around. Anyways, I hope this sort of explains that I haven't gone totally squirrely, everyone out there that's sort of been asking about the axis. I felt I had to explain, but hopefully a number of you are able to come join me and have fun doing this when things all clear up. But yeah, I'm enjoying myself, listening to my music, throwing my weapons, and just trying to get more and more accurate. I'll try to keep the videos coming if there's anything that's noteworthy, anything I do that's kind of neat or interesting or new or novel. Thanks for your interest from the beginning, and we'll talk to you soon. All the best.